This is why narcissists pretend their tantrums never happened. Have you ever experienced a situation where a narcissistic person has an outburst, then turns around and accuses you of holding a grudge? That right there belongs in the gaslighting category. Here's how it typically plays out. The narcissistic individual has a rage episode, maybe over something trivial or arbitrary. The fallout can be intense. They might ruin a gathering, disrupt a quiet evening at home, or cause a scene at a meeting or party. They might yell so loudly it frightens the kids or pets. In more extreme cases, they may threaten divorce or even say they'll call the police and falsely accuse you of abuse, all while you're simply trying to de-escalate the situation. Maybe neighbors overhear and check in, alarmed by the level of chaos. It's a big, loud, overwhelming event, so intense that you're left questioning everything about the relationship. Maybe this isn't the first time it's happened, and you're thinking, here we go again. Something's got to change. You might feel afraid, emotionally drained, and anxious about what comes next. You could lose sleep, endlessly replaying the whole thing in your mind. Then, remarkably, just hours later, or maybe the next day, they're acting like nothing happened. No apology, no conversation, no acknowledgement at all. It's as if the outburst never occurred. You might even start second-guessing yourself. Did I imagine that? Am I overreacting? Surely they didn't just forget it happened. If you're lucky, maybe someone else witnessed it and can confirm it wasn't just in your head. You might even check audio or video footage just to reassure yourself that you're not losing it. Now, when someone explodes like that and then offers no accountability, apology, or recognition afterward, that's textbook gaslighting. It's a denial of reality, and let's skip the excuse that they're too ashamed to acknowledge what they did. Sure, shame might play a role, but even then, it doesn't justify completely ignoring what happened. A simple, "Okay, I know it happened," would at least be a step toward honesty. Please don't make a big deal out of it. I had a rough day. Can we just move on? While that response still isn't ideal, at least it's some acknowledgement that the incident occurred. But more often, a narcissistic person will have an intense outburst, what amounts to a full-blown adult tantrum, and then carry on as though nothing happened. Yes, shame plays a part in this. Narcissistic individuals do recognize when they've acted out, and they don't like appearing out of control. However, they still feel justified in their outbursts. In fact, these tantrums often serve as a form of emotional regulation for them, since emotional dysregulation is a hallmark of narcissistic behavior. Now, let's be real. If everyone responded to life's frustrations by exploding, we'd all be melting down constantly. But most people don't. Most of us don't even feel like we can. We rein it in because we have empathy. We care about the impact on those around us. And we've developed the ability to regulate our emotions. That's part of being a functioning adult. People with antagonistic personality traits often lack this capacity. And while none of us are perfect, everyone loses their cool from time to time. Most people will apologize, take accountability, and try to make things right. Narcissistic and antagonistic individuals usually won't. If you've been in this kind of relationship long enough, you might recognize the pattern. You may already know that trying to talk it out won't get you anywhere. And after losing a night, a day, or even a weekend to their blow-up, you might not have the energy or emotional resilience to initiate another conflict by confronting them. So instead, you may start to pull back, disengage, shut down, keep some emotional distance. That's a completely understandable and natural response after someone has acted out like that. You may know you're angry, but also know that saying anything won't help. So you choose silence, and then like clockwork, comes the next move. Some version of, "Oh, so now you're just going to hold a grudge." You can never let anything go, can you? Strangely enough, this might be your tiny win. At the very least, they've indirectly admitted that something actually did happen. That kind of behavior does justify a grudge. It's unfortunate to think of that as a win, but in this case, it is. Yet, it's also one more form of gaslighting. Suddenly, you're the problem. You're the one who can't let go, who's holding on to anger. And once again, it becomes impossible to move forward in the relationship in a way that feels remotely healthy or normal. So what does the narcissistic person actually want? They want everything to return to normal, as if nothing ever happened. They want to maintain their image, avoid the shame of their outburst, and carry on as though the entire episode never occurred. Meanwhile, you're left to absorb yet another emotionally exhausting and unpredictable moment. And you're expected to move forward seamlessly, pretending everything is fine. This pattern contributes to something called betrayal blindness, especially if these dynamics were part of your childhood. If you grew up with a parent who behaved this way, and there was no space to acknowledge or address it, you may have learned to accept the chaos without question. In narcissistic relationships, there are always two sets of rules, one for them and one for everyone else. They get to explode, scream, sulk, and hold grudges. Everyone else, we're expected to keep quiet, brush it off, and act like it never happened. And no, you're not allowed to have your own emotional outbursts either. Many people end up following these unspoken rules just to keep things afloat, just to get through the day. But here's the issue. That way of living isn't sustainable. To keep that system intact, you have to suppress your own reality. You have to tolerate repeated emotional dysregulation that, no matter how much radical acceptance you practice, still jangles your nervous system. You have to deny your own natural reactions to someone behaving in a completely destabilizing way. All of this contributes to the trauma bond. Most narcissistic individuals don't rage every single day. So when they're calm and things return to a state of normal, whatever normal even means in a relationship like this, you can begin to relax. Over time, you settle into this alternating rhythm of chaos and calm, of denial and dysfunction. And that is the trauma bond. Gradually, you might even start to believe that you are the one holding grudges, that you are the problem. And maybe, just maybe, if you could just let it go, everything would be okay. But that's not the truth. For far too long, we've focused all our energy on understanding and explaining the narcissistic person's behavior. Only more recently have we begun shifting that focus toward the people who are actually impacted by these relationships. We've been preoccupied with questions like, why are narcissistic people so dysregulated? Why do they feel so much shame? Why are they so insecure? But we've overlooked the toll it takes on you, not just enduring the outbursts, but also having those episodes dismissed like they never happened. Worse still, you're often shamed or blamed simply for pulling back in response to the chaos that keeps repeating. For many people in these relationships, the deepest hope is for closure, for that aha moment when the narcissistic person, or even their enablers, finally acknowledges what's been happening, offers a sincere apology, or at the very least, validates your experience. But in most cases, that moment never comes. And holding on to that hope only drains your energy that could be redirected toward your healing and growth. Living in a reality that's constantly denied is painful. Real healing begins when you start trusting yourself. Yes, the tantrum really did happen. No, they won't admit it. Yes, you're allowed to disengage. Yes, they'll say you're holding a grudge. And no, you're not going to change their mind. That's why it's crucial to ground yourself in experiences and relationships that affirm your reality. Spend time with people who see and hear you, people who don't gaslight you, but instead validate your experience. Learn about these patterns so you can better understand what you've been through. If it feels right, consider therapy or support groups. Do things that bring you meaning and joy. And you don't need to share any of this with the narcissistic person. This journey is about you, not about winning their approval. Try stepping back from the constant effort to please the narcissistic person and notice what it feels like to reclaim your time, your energy, and your identity. Yes, their tantrums will still frustrate you, especially when they spin the narrative and make you out to be the problem. That reaction is valid. Nothing will completely erase that anger, and it shouldn't. But what matters most is that you hold on to your reality and see it clearly for what it is. This is especially important in relationships you can't easily leave. Maintaining that inner clarity becomes your lifeline, your daily step toward healing. And if you're wondering whether this is happening to anyone else, the answer is yes. It's happening to so many others. And while it's sad that narcissistic people feel shame, it's also not your job to carry all of that for them. They can seek their own help. You're not responsible for shouldering their emotional burden. Thanks again.